Manchester United might have landed their next man up. Game 2 of the MLS Cup playoffs kickoff tonight, and Neymar buys a magnificent mansion in Miami. But will he be MLS's next big star? That and more here on Friday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome into Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from everyone's favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I'm Robert Kerr, happy to be with you and alongside co-host and host of SiriusXM's When Aldo Talks Football and the best soccer show, one of America's spookiest Jason Davises.
Yes. I think I okay. Do I want to be the spookiest Jason Davis? Is that something I should aspire to, Robert? Like, I don't know.
It's a temporary situation due to the position of the calendar.
I see. So I just happen to be the spookiest, but the other Jason Davises still exist, right? They didn't like disappear because of Halloween or something. I'm the only one left, and that makes me the spookiest by default. Is that how that works?
You're gonna have to tell me. America's truest spooky Jason Davis. Write us in morningkickaround@gmail.com. Let us know your spooky Jason Davis qualification.
Am I spookier than the biologist at what school was that? Some school in Virginia that I was introducing my kid to that had a brochure that said, "Come walk through nature with biologist Jason Davis." And I was like, oh no, there's another one. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there.
So there is a man with your name wanting to lead children into the forest?
I think it's young people, not children necessarily. I think, college students, they can take care of themselves, right? That's not weird, is it? I don't know.
Speaking of spooky, last night, of course, Halloween. What was the highlight of? Did you see any costumes out and about at all that were fun?
I am a sucker for those costumes where it looks like someone's carrying the person. Like there was a kid in an alien costume. It was an alien carrying him, right? Yeah. And because of where the legs go, and there's other fake legs, it looks like the alien's carrying him around. I'm a sucker for those. Those are good costumes.
I saw a very small child wearing a Ultimate Warrior costume. So we had the big hair and like the muscles and everything. It was pretty comical. I enjoyed that.
But here's the thing about that costume. That kid did not pick that costume. Dad put that kid in that costume because they love the Ultimate Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior is not something 5-year-old children know about. Let's be honest.
Awesome regardless. Okay. As we lead into our segments of the day, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We're midway through the 300s of subscribers, on our way to the next big goal is 500. And then, of course, our ultimate goal of hitting that 50,000. But let's get to 500 first. And if you want to reach out to the show on the interwebs, hit us up, mkickaround on X and Instagram. And I already said it, Jason Davises are already going to write in. But if you want to as well, Morning Kickaround.
Yeah, I would like people to send us their best soccer themed costume that they either saw on the internet. Doesn't matter where you saw it. Tell me your best soccer themed costume. Actually, I'm looking here. Orias Tosh wants to get mixed up in real stuff right away. Should my Philadelphia Union replace Jim Curtin? Maybe we will talk about that. But also, you could have been Jim Curtin for Halloween. That's a pretty simple costume. Got to have some J's. Got to have some nice kicks. Got to have the glasses. He's a particular style, but you could have gone as Jim Curtin for Halloween if you're a Philadelphia Union fan.
Yeah, coaches' costumes are always fun. A couple years ago, I saw a father-son combo. They were like American football coordinators, like that had the headsets on and everything. That was pretty fun.
Tyler Adams. Did you see Tyler Adams since I'm on this subject?
No.
Tyler Adams went as the characters from Up, and Tyler was the little boy, and his young baby was the old man, and they also had a dog with a sign that said Doug on it. So that was Tyler Adams.
That was pretty good. Send those in, your best soccer-related Halloween costumes. Send those into the chat or online. But let's get on going for Friday morning's Long Balls. As they do, long ball number 1, Manchester United, their next man up. it
Yes.
seems Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon, all documents set. And after a 30-day notice period, he's been going to come to northern England from the Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah, that HR has received all his paperwork. Is that what I understand? They've got his W-4 filled out. Is that how they do it in England with Manchester United? I mean, obviously a little bit different. I got to get that work permit to sail through the. It's always like the Home Office or whatever. I don't know. I'm watching just started watching the second season of The Ambassador or whatever that's called. Is that what that's called?
I'm not familiar with The Ambassador.
The one on The Diplomat, excuse me. The Diplomat. She is an ambassador, but it's called The Diplomat. It's very good. It's on Netflix.
Does Cameron have an appearance on
that? No Dipset. Unfortunately, no Dipset references on this show. I would love that. But no, that's not where we're at. But it is a diplomatic situation. But I just
let him know.
It's like, the foreign secretary and the home secretary and all these people. And I'm sure they all had to rubber stamp Ruben Amorim's, forms as he came over from Portugal to take over Manchester United. I will once again ask if this is the right approach for United to dive back into a full commitment. They're not going to date around a little bit. They're not going to check out to see if Ruud van Nistelrooy has some potential. Maybe they turn him into a quality Premier League manager. They're not going to do any of that. And maybe this is the remnants or the echo of the Ole Gunnar experience, which, was way better than people remember it, I think. Although he did not win any trophies at United, which is the standard. I get it. But I don't know. You are saying to this young coach, next man up. And you don't hire a coach like this if you don't want that coach to be your coach for an extended period of time, right? This is not a hired gun. That's what Ralph Rangnick was, right? Ralph Rangnick was a hired gun at Manchester United. Everybody kind of knew that was going to be a temporary situation. It was uncomfortable for everybody and it didn't work out. But at least there was this sense of like, okay, well, we're going to work on our plan. Now, things changed after Rangnick, right? The ownership situation changed. The who controlled the team changed. Lots of things changed. And they end up with Ten Hag, and look, we know how that went. I wonder if this is good for Amorim. I don't know how you say no to Manchester United if they come calling, Robert. And good.
But that's where a lot of mistakes are made, is when people say, when am I ever going to get a job like this again? That's when mistakes are made, is when I may never get this opportunity again, so why not? That's why I tip my hat to Xabi Alonso. He was the hot property coming out of Germany after the undefeated Bundesliga season.
Right.
And I'm sure he got a lot of offers and he pumped the brakes and he was like, I'm still, learning.
Oh, sorry. It could be him. I'm so animated. I'm knocking my microphone around. It could be him leading Liverpool on this title hunt right now. It could be Xabi Alonso and not Arne Slot. So, yeah, you're right about that. I do respect that, knowing when your moment comes. But as I've said before, and I think I remember this, making this specific argument when it came to Weston McKennie going to Juve when he left Schalke. American fans, because we are just these people, were like, oh my God, he's never going to play at Juve. Why is he going to Juve? This is ridiculous. What are you doing? How do you say no to Juve? If you're Weston McKennie, how do you say, nah, I'm not going? Juventus? Nah, I'm not going there. I'll
push through in the German second division instead.
I have more growth in me at Schalke. No, you take the offer when Juve comes calling. And I think it's probably that for Ruben Amorim. His football is aggressive and interesting. There is, again, always the question of, does he have the personnel to pull it off? And that is a very big question.
Midweek in his debut leading Man U as an interim, Ruud van Nistelrooy getting a pretty entertaining win. Was it 5-2?
5-2 over Leicester. And here's the fact that is interesting. Erik ten Hag never, as manager of United, had a 5-goal game against Premier League opposition. Now, obviously, this was the Carabao Cup and not the league, but Leicester is still a Premier League team, and United scored 5 the minute Ten Hag is out the door and Ruud van Nistelrooy takes over. And I definitely think that this is very English media and around Manchester United in particular. And I saw, the usual suspects.
So
Rio
reactionary.
Rio Ferdinand,
tweeting
stuff with emojis about Ruud and how the team loves Ruud and basically implying it would be a mistake to boot Rude to bring in the hot young guy in Amorim. So there is that thing of like I reject the narrative I'm being fed, even as I'm kind of on board with the idea that rushing into Amorim might be a mistake. I can understand why you might say, well, come on, stop it already. Turning Ruud van Nistelrooy into the savior of United just because it's a good story, just because he played there, just because the old players like him, just because they scored 5 goals against the Leicester team that clearly had no interest in doing anything in the League Cup.
Yeah, they were on cruise control. The midweek League Cup was actually pretty fun. There was lots of goals had midweek. And then so with this 30-day notice, there's speculation.
City knocked out of the League Cup. Just note that. It's interesting.
Yeah, it won't be. Yeah. I think they've won it, 6 out of the last 8 years or something crazy like that. That's
something like that.
Penciled in Manchester City. Well, it speaks to depth, right? I mean, we talked about it. Like lower league teams are going to go for, all out for this, but the Premier League teams that do well in the fourth strongest or fourth most important competition are the teams with the depth, the Liverpools, the Chelseas, the Man Cities. They can put their second lineup out there and get a result. So with this HR 30-day notice for Amorim, they're speculating that he'll be on the island of come the November international break and is speculated to debut against Ipswich.
Yeah, so here KY is saying, rushing into Amorim, they just did a long coach search in the summer. They couldn't afford to do it again. I mean, again, we did a whole search and we decided to keep Ten Hag, which is definitely a thing that you kind of look sideways at after this decision to boot Ten Hag. Again, I think Amorim is a talented coach, and I think in the right circumstances he could be extremely successful. But it's just again, it's just like is this setting anybody up for success, Robert? And we'll see. I mean, they do have a pretty soft schedule up to Arsenal in December after the international break. So maybe Amorim, I think it's Ipswich in the league, is his first match. Yep. Should be fine. Should I say that, but should be fine.
Similar to Ole, he had a friendly run in when he first joined the team, and I think he got like six good results out of his first 7 or 8 games, and that got a lot of positivity. And maybe similar could happen, an easier runway if he gets easier games. Long ball number 2 now. A full slate, another dizzyingly busy weekend domestically and on the European continent. We'll start over there before we come home to MLS playoffs. Long ball number 2, the biggest games in Europe. Should we start off Newcastle versus Arsenal? That's the first game early Saturday morning?
I mean, that's an interesting one. Does anybody think Eddie Howe is making the season if things stay the way they are at Newcastle United? I don't. Do you, Robert? Do you see Eddie Howe holding on?
The leadership at Newcastle has shown patience and restraint so far. There isn't a lot of rumor mill stuff going on as far as like who's the next replacement at Newcastle, but it has not been a good start, and he's still kind of riding off of his first year successes at the helm. Yeah. Obviously, Newcastle doesn't want to go to the Bruce era again, but it's not going as well as it could be in the Northeast.
Well, they beat Chelsea, a rotated Chelsea, in the League Cup on Wednesday, so that's a little bit of momentum going into the league weekend. It just hasn't been good recently for Newcastle United in the Premier League. They lost to Chelsea, they lost to Brighton, they drew with Everton, they drew with City, which was a reasonable result at the end of September. They lost to Fulham. I mean, it just, maybe there is a sense that we need to wait this out, that we have to have patience, that we need to get to another transfer window at United before we can feel like we've given Eddie Howe all the tools necessary. I don't know how much pressure is on Eddie Howe to get a result in this game, but that St. James's Park crowd is not going to be thrilled if they just kind of punt against Arsenal and don't look like they're competitive. And, Arsenal with the gutsy draw against Liverpool gives them a real sense that, they're still in this thing, right? I mean, I've read the stories, the Athletic saying, the math says that this might be the way the table looks at the end of it, that City will win, that Liverpool will be second, that Arsenal is going to be third, and then, adjust accordingly. But Arsenal has every reason to think, based on the last 2 seasons, that they could be in this thing till the end. And so I would expect them to bring some energy to this match, despite whatever injury issues they might have. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't think this is the game that gets Eddie Howe fired by any means, but it might be a difficult one to navigate.
Yeah, Arsenal heading into that matchup up in Newcastle off the back of their midweek exploits in the NFL Cup, a 3-0 win away at Preston North End. And just a curious note about that game is second, they obviously heavily rotated Arsenal, but second half, Mikel Arteta brought on starters Havertz, Partey, and Saka, which was a surprising move. But the second game to kind of look at league, I guess second place, can't say league toppers anymore, but Liverpool taking on Brighton and Hove Albion, who they themselves had a midweek clash in the EFL Cup, a 3-2 win for Liverpool. I'm curious, Arne Slot he's developing, you can see the emotional connection with the fans and the team growing these last couple weeks. I remember there was he's been playing it very coy. Schlott, very professional, easing his way, not trying to be that huge personality and, guiding the Kop and the Anfield crowd, but you see little by little getting more emotive on the sidelines and getting into it and reacting to fouls and celebrating and starting to become, that figurehead and easing into that role after really kind of stepping into the shadow pretty brilliantly. And then Brighton come in, they've not been, they've been kind of up and down so far this season.
I mean, I think they've done really well, considering they've got a new, extremely young manager, considering that they've done another transition to yet another regime after Graham Potter and who am I missing there? Who's the Italian manager that just went through? It doesn't. My brain's just not calling the name. It's in there somewhere. But obviously, we've got a team in Brighton that is punching above its weight. I mean, they have a reasonable shot at making Europe again this year, and that's I think that right there is remarkable. And every time you see any of the big clubs go up against Brighton, their manager is inevitably crediting their team. I mean, Arne Slot did it this week in the League Cup. We've seen Pep talk about this team and how they keep doing it. And this is an impressive out. De Zerbi. Thank you very much to KY who throws out De Zerbi. That was the coach I was trying to think of.
It's a conveyor belt. Don't worry about that. It's a conveyor belt.
It is. And think about this. I mean, okay, again, the bar is different at Brighton than it is at Manchester United, just historically, right? Man United is supposed to be competing for Premier League titles, and that's the standard that every manager is held to. And win trophies. That's the standard every manager is held to. At Brighton, it's different. It's like if you are in the quarterfinals of the cup tournaments you're in, if you are fighting for a European spot in the Premier League, you are outperforming history at Brighton. You are doing wonderfully at Brighton. But think about the managers that Brighton has brought there. And maybe it's something else, right? Maybe it's not just the managers, but Potter, De Zerbi, now Hertzler, they keep finding guys who keep finding success, who maintain Brighton at that level of punching above its proverbial weight. That's a credit. Like, that's huge. That's something United hasn't figured out. Right? It's something Chelsea may have just figured out with Moretzka. Like, we're seeing a club set a standard for bringing through young managers, interesting managers who play, play progressive, sort of high-minded football, and it's interesting. I mean, you could do worse if you're a fan coming to the game and like, hey, I need a Premier League team, than picking Brighton.
Yeah, I hope that it continues. Yeah, I undersold them. 4 wins, 4 draws, and just the 1 defeat so far, sitting in second place. And they've been doing it in very interesting ways. And the main contributor,
they're in 6th, right?
Yeah,
say second?
Sixth place.
Okay.
Sorry if I misspoke there, but they're doing an interesting way. I mean, some of their main contributors are from their scouting, like Matoma, an amazing player, but they've also picked up castaways. Reuter was kind of a Leeds castaway, and then a Tales from the Past leading scores, Danny Welbeck. Who puts that on their score, on their bingo card, that Danny Welbeck's leading a top half team in scoring at this point of the season. It's early, but I mean, they've been impressive doing it in all sorts of ways, and also bringing up youth through their ranks as well. So they're kind of picking up talent in a variety of ways. They don't have just like one singular formula, and we'll see. Hopefully, they're doing the they've been selling off a lot, but replacing them at an incredible rate.
They are and it's a little bit Southampton, but with better success. Right?
Yeah, but hopefully, they don't sell all their players and then never get that new breed, and that's kind of when those teams kind of fall off. Those overachievers kind of fall off is when that conveyor belt of talent runs out. Southampton definitely. The tank is empty, you'd say, down there. The other South Coast team.
Incredibly difficult to maintain that year in and year out, forever and ever and ever, right? And we have our own example here in the United States with Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia or Dallas, who maybe didn't turn it into the on-field success that Philadelphia did. But you look at that Dallas Academy that was so heralded for so long, and now it's like, well, wait, where's the new young talent coming out of the Dallas Academy?
Not quite there. The bank is running out. And so we'll go from the island over to the European continent. Americans hopefully in action in Italy. Udinese welcome Juve.
Yeah, this look, the interesting games I think across Europe as we get ready for the November break. Italy is particularly tight, although it looks very much like Napoli is the class of Serie A, especially after that win over Milan in midweek. The Udinese start has been solid, good. Obviously, if Juventus is going to pull themselves into any sort of title race or absolutely make sure of a top 4 spot and a Champions League position next year, then this is the kind of game you got to get something from. It's a couple draws in a row for Juve. They haven't beaten in a while, but I don't think that anybody's overly impressed with the 2-2 against Parma in midweek on Wednesday, and you had the 4-4 against Inter. That probably took a little bit out of Juventus, obviously, in quite a while game. We'll see if Juve can keep it going from an entertainment perspective. Udinese's given up 14 goals in 10 games, and yet sits 7th, just 2 points back of Juve. So we'll see if there's goals in this one.
In other Serie A American-related matchups, Milan and Christian Pulisic, hopefully he's feeling healthier, making the trip to 17th place Monza.
Yeah, what's your flu remedy? Go-to flu remedy, Robert. I mean, obviously there's like actual medication. Like I'm a Theraflu guy. I'll go Theraflu pretty quickly to try to get over something. My wife is a Mucinex. She's just like, it's time to go to bed. Mucinex to the head. She's out. NyQuil and that kind of stuff. I wonder if Christian Pulisic has a go-to, or if he's like, chicken soup.
Mine's a matzo ball soup. Lots of matzo ball soup and lots of sleep.
Lots of sleep. You gotta get your sleep in. You gotta get your sleep. I mean, he did play half an hour in that match against Napoli, unable to make a difference. The story for Napoli, or for Milan right now, is not whether or not Christian Pulisic is going to get over his flu. The story is what's going on with Rafael Leao and Paulo Fonseca. That's the story, because Leao is a talented player, right? And I think if you talk about ceiling on the attacking side of the ball, right? Ceiling on the attacking side of the ball, despite the difference in production, Leao is a better player at a higher level than Christian Pulisic. I mean, that's the general consensus out there. Now, whether that's some anti-American bias or I don't know. And obviously, Leao's had very good seasons. He's been excellent. I mean, he's been excellent for Milan in the past. This is not like he hasn't shown it yet. He has. But there clearly is a disconnect between Fonseca and Leao, and it maybe comes down to whether or not Leao can do the things on the defensive side of the ball, be a total player the way that Fonseca wants him to, because that's what Pulisic is doing. In addition to being the guy scoring the goals and setting them up, Pulisic is willing to do more of that defensive work, and it's kept him in the lineup, humming along, while Leao has been dropped. He was dropped from the starting lineup against Napoli at the San Siro. And when you have a star player, Robert, and he butts heads with a coach, particularly a coach who's not getting the kind of results that Milan fans demand, what usually happens?
It's usually not a good sign, and usually is foreshadowing to a dismissal and maybe a pink slip.
That's right. I don't think we're long for Fonseca being shown the door at AC Milan.
Oh boy, I'm getting called out here. One of our commenters has zero affiliation with Serie A, so he wants to take a moment to call out
Wait, hold on.
background.
Zagorski is not an Italian name. Is that what you're telling me? I'm shocked to learn this. No Italian background. I mean, you could have some Italian back there somewhere with Zagorski, but
Oh boy.
no. I got Italian. I'm Davis, but I got Italian somewhere in there. Southern Italian. I don't know. I mean, I have to pick Napoli. All right, let's move on. Let's keep it humming.
I blame the globalization on that. All right. Long ball number 3 for Friday. Like I said, busy all around the world here. MLS Cup round 1, game 2 get kicked off this tonight and then through the weekend. We'll start off. We'll go chronologically tonight. Between these two games, which one would you tune into? Charlotte versus Orlando or Colorado versus the Los Angeles Galaxy?
Well, luckily, I don't have to choose because there are one after the other. Now, that is a 9:30, a little bit of a later kickoff out there in Colorado. I think both these games could be interesting. You know, there was a situation here with the way that first game went in Orlando, where Charlotte, I think they're good enough, but they had the red card. Pep Biel went kind of kick out crazy at the end of that game, got sent off. They appealed the red card, and it was not overturned. MLS was like, no, that's still a red card. He's still going to be missing for your next game. So Charlotte is shorthanded, and they've got to win this game. I'm wondering if Dean Smith might just say, screw it, let's bunker it home, try to get to penalties, find a way to get through. I'm not sure it's going to be incredibly interesting to watch from that perspective. I do think the Galaxy, Colorado could try to do the same thing at home after having lost the first game, but the Galaxy are so clearly better than Colorado that we might end up with a 3-0 tonight and that series be over.
Yeah. Tough to see where Colorado gets any kind of result from there, but MLS playoffs, anything could happen.
Anything
Jason,
could happen. Anything could happen.
But who's going to keep up with Ricky Puig in the front line? From Colorado, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that group that the Galaxy can roll out there is pretty fun. It's pretty fun.
Saturday night, Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be welcoming Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and the Inter Miami crew in front of what is reportedly going to be a 70,000 attendance.
Yeah, I mean let's give Atlanta credit that's become a soccer town, and when Atlanta United plays, they generally speaking do pretty well. I don't think that the city is as enthusiastic about this Atlanta United team as they have been about teams in the past, obviously with the coaching change and the sneaking into the playoffs. Yes, this is probably mostly about Messi. I'm wondering how many pink jerseys we will see in Atlanta tomorrow night at Mercedes-Benz. That team was, Messi was not the influential figure in the first game, and yet Miami still won. I think Atlanta's capable of beating Atlanta. Atlanta's capable of beating Miami, rather. And if they're going to do it, it's going to be in front of 70,000 with, hopefully most of those people supporting them. So I think there's a reasonable shot here, but Miami is a different level right now. Lionel Messi is capable of just hitting a switch, dropping 3 on Atlanta, or dropping a couple of goals and an assist and another one and a free kick. And, those things are all possible here. I don't know if Tata Martino is going to just kind of go for it, put Atlanta out of their misery so he can get ready for the next round, or after having won a title, having been in Atlanta, having the connections and maybe being aware of where this could go wrong, maybe plays a little bit more conservatively and tries to ease into the game. We shall see. I don't know if they're capable, though. I don't know if Miami's capable of that. We've seen it before.
We'll see. For the neutral out there, it would be interesting to see if Atlanta scored first in this game and see if Miami really has to push hard and get back into it. The other Saturday night matchups in MLS Cup, NYCFC hosting FC Cincinnati, and in Minnesota hosting Real Salt Lake as the nightcap on Saturday.
Yeah, the NYCFC matchup, it was just the one goal in it the last time around for these two teams in Cincinnati. with Assad in the 51st minute. Tavon Gray got sent off. They also appealed that red card. That was an added time. That was not overturned, so NYCFC will be missing him. NYCFC is a different team when they play on a baseball field. Now, Yankee Stadium is the preferred baseball field, but this one's going to be at Citi Field, despite the fact that Yankees are already cooked and done. I think this was scheduled, with the possibility that the World Series might be going on still. This one was scheduled for Citi Field. So instead of the Yankees, it's the Mets that get to host an MLS Cup match.
Yeah, that's something else. I think that the NYCFC would be, we've talked quite a bit on this show about naming and branding. Could NYCFC legitimately be called the Wanderers? Because they've played in so many different homes and so many different stadiums. They could legitimately, organically be called the
Wanderers is better than homeless or the unhoused or whatever. That's better. Yeah, that's better. They could lean into that, but they're building their own joint there in Queens. We'll see.
We'll see. And then Sunday, there are 3 more games, starting off with probably the one that I'm looking forward to the most. New York Red Bulls hosting Columbus, with Columbus kind of have their backs to the walls, facing elimination on the road.
Yeah, that's where the drama is. I mean, look, I think Minnesota, we'll go back to that one real quick. I think Minnesota takes care of RSL tomorrow night. I feel bad because I like RSL. I like Diego Luna. I like some of the pieces they have there. I like Pablo Mastroeni. But, man, I think Minnesota United is going to figure out a way to see that one out. Then on Sunday, I am fully expecting a big response from the Columbus crew. In fact, I think they might put a crooked number up. I know the Red Bulls are tough. I know they had a great defensive effort at Crew Stadium, or Lower.com Field, rather. But I do think Wilfred Nancy is going to get something out of this team. This is interesting. We'll throw this up here. KY saying, Nancy linked to a job in France. You think he leaves? It is Saint Etienne, I believe, that he is most directly linked to at the moment. I think Wilfred Nancy is leaving Major League Soccer. I'm not sure it's the Saint Etienne job yet. And I don't think he's any less committed to what's happening with Columbus.
He looked pretty committed and frustrated and definitely invested game one.
Whether or not there's any contact yet, I don't think he's distracted. I don't think that's what happened. The energy of the Red Bulls caught Columbus by surprise. I don't think they're going to be surprised at Red Bull Arena. The other games, Houston, Seattle winning on penalty kicks up there at Lumen Field. Houston will be without Coco Carrasquilla because of a red card. That's really big blow for them. They can win that game, but I'll bet on the Seattle Sounders finding a way. And then LAFC Vancouver, that nightcap on Sunday. Vanni Sartini is a very smart coach, and he certainly knows how to game plan. We saw with the wild card matchup when they walked into Portland and just routed the Timbers. But LAFC's got something extra, talent-wise, capability-wise. And again, that counterattack is so devastating when they hit you with it that you kind of walk into their trap. So I expect LAFC to end that series on Sunday.
So that's a full slate at the weekend for MLS Cup Round 1, Game 2. Plenty to take in this weekend. Thank you for your comments in the comment section. And if you want more of us and want this whole show to expand, subscribe. That is the name of the game. We are in the mid 300s. Our next real big milestone would be hitting 500. So tell your friends, tell your partners,
text the link, WhatsApp the link, email the link, write it down, the entire link to the show page on YouTube on a piece of paper and mail it to a friend. I don't care. Just tell somebody about Morning Kick Around. That's how we get the show to grow and get to do more things.
Yeah, send your receipts of all the different group chats that you've sent Morning Kick Around links to. We want receipts. And then hit us up online, mkickaround on X and Instagram, and morningkickaround@gmail.com. These long balls are through. We've done well, and we're going to move on to Friday's Hot Topic. Friday's hot topic: which stars are coming to Major League Soccer in 2025? There are reports swirling about a one Neymar, Brazilian superstar Neymar, buying a.
Why? Why are we talking about Neymar coming to MLS? What could possibly have sparked such a conversation, Robert?
Well, not only do his two buddies, Messi and Suarez, play in Miami, but he bought a $26 million mansion down in South Florida and has been spotted going out and about with the Beckhams.
Oh yeah, okay. So he bought a lot. Is that what I'm to understand? Let's see what I got here. There it is. He bought an empty waterfront lot in
Not
Miami.
A mansion. He bought a lot for a mansion.
Yeah, could be planning to build a 13,000 square. I mean, look, I'm a homeowner. I think you're a homeowner, Robert. Yeah. I bought a house. I didn't buy a lot. I wasn't going to get involved in construction. I got friends who did that. You're committed when you buy the land and then you're like, hey, let's put up a house. And I got to plan all that and pick all the fixtures. And here it is that you were talking about out and about with Dave. When you're in Miami buying a lot, you might as well go out with David Beckham and Posh Spice.
Posh Spice looking through. Yeah, she's thrilled to be there on that. Maybe that dinner ran a little long.
I mean, and Neymar looks exactly the same in every photo they ever take of him. Like that's what he's wearing, black denim and all that. So I don't. Does this mean he's coming to Major League Soccer? I mean, naturally, the speculation will be he's going to join Messi and Suarez and Busquets and Alba in Miami. I don't know how they can possibly fit him under the cap. Robert, can you tell me?
I mean, who would be the player? I mean, would they have to drop a player to insert him? Like,
I don't want to get into the actual machinations, the mechanisms necessary to get Neymar into that roster for Tata Martino.
Fair enough.
I just like the speculation. Like, I just like the idea of like, what could he be coming? Sure, and you know, would Neymar be good in Major League Soccer? I'm kind of not sure. I'm kind of not sure.
What are the sort of things that plant seeds of doubt? Is it the travel? Is it the fields, or the apathy? Perhaps.
I think there are players that, and it's a sense, right? You don't have anything to go on but gut here, but and obviously the recent developments in his career kind of lead me into this line of thinking. But there are players where you go, hey, that guy might work because he seems to care about the game in a way that it wouldn't matter where he's playing, what the field conditions are like, the travel, that kind of stuff. I mean, I do think the travel and the weather are big things that guys have to adjust to. But there are guys that are like, you can just see that they are earnest footballers. They're not these guys that are all about the glitz and the glamour first and foremost. Like even Messi, who's made more money than God as a footballer, has never seemed like a guy who was in it for the money. He was always kind of like, I'm just a soccer player who happens to be the best you've ever seen, and then these things come with it. Mm-hmm. Neymar has always kind of been, he's on the yacht, he's in Saint-Tropez, he's got the flashy car, he's doing all these things, and that does not always translate to he fits in Major League Soccer. And that'd be why I would have concerns about Neymar. Talent-wise, and I can't tell you right now, with his long-term injury and all this stuff, like how he might adapt to life in MLS and the physical rigors of it.
You're talking about the commitment to doing the lot, so then building a mansion. I saw a lot of VH1 behind the music, and building an elaborate mansion sometimes is the undoing of people. So hopefully, for Neymar's sake, this isn't the giant project that undermines his family's inheritance or anything like that.
But maybe we can get a reality show out of Neymar building his mansion in Miami. Okay, I'm going to throw this up here from KY. That's what y'all said about Suarez. I think we still overestimate the level of the league and how easy it is. Okay, two parts to this comment. Number one, that's what we said about Suarez. I never said Suarez wasn't going to be committed to playing as hard as he could. I think everybody thought Luis Suarez was going to bring his full effort when he joined MLS. He is, again, a guy that you watch as whatever you think about the biting or the handball against Ghana or the trouble he got in at Liverpool with the words that he said, whatever you think about him in those ways, there is no doubt that Luis Suarez is a gamer.
Yeah, all those
100% a
misbehaviors
gamer.
come from his insanity
He's
levels of competitiveness.
overly competitive.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Luis Suarez. If he was healthy, there were no doubts about Suarez and what he could do in MLS. The question was whether he could stay healthy. And we've all been proven wrong on that front. We've all been proven wrong that Luis Suarez stayed healthy the entire season. And if not for Suarez, probably Miami's not breaking a points record because they were missing Messi for so long. So I give Luis Suarez a ton of credit, but I don't think that in terms of the level of the league and how easy it is. Maybe. Okay, maybe. I don't know how to counter that. That's just your opinion, whatever. I do think playing with Messi sometimes, playing with Busquets, playing with Alba, playing with, those guys has helped, Luis Suarez adapt to the league, score a bunch of goals. And, you can see it. You look around the league at the level of player, and the guys that had done it at a high level have been able to translate it in a lot of cases. Like Christian Benteke, again, a guy who gives full effort, and he's out there heading balls in for DC United despite the fact they can't make the playoffs. So I don't know. Then again, when it comes to Neymar, right, I don't want to be unfair to the guy. I just think that maybe the choice to go to Saudi Arabia, maybe some of the things that have come with his career, the lack of significant success at PSG and sort of how it trails him around with his legacy, I don't know that makes for a great recipe for Major League Soccer. But there might be some other guys. Robert, do you want to look at some other pictures?
Yeah,
some other players?
This brings up the topic of just kind of having fun with it. Stars we'd like to see in MLS. I mean, if we're in the new era where the stars the limit, as far as the names that can be brought into the American domestic first division, there's been some names touted about and a couple names that would just be fun to see. Yeah. Of those 6, we see on the screen pictures of Griezmann, Pogba, De Bruyne, Benzema, Salah, Modric. Which one of those would you like to see come stateside?
Well, you want to rank them? I can rank them real fast. Ooh. Okay, let me see. This is a mix. It's not just ability. It's not just who the best player is or who my favorite player is to watch. Because I think, man, this is really tough. 3 of my favorite players are on this. 3 of my absolute favorite players are on this list. And one of them is not Mo Salah, even though I love him too. But I think, man, okay, I have to say that Luka Modric, as much as I love him, and he is one of my all-time favorite players, he is old. I know he's still getting it done for Madrid. I know he's still getting it done for Madrid, but he is old. De Bruyne is the classiest player I've maybe ever seen in my life. He can do so many things. The way he plays is incredible. I want to see De Bruyne in this league, but Griezmann has a flair that I love as well, and I've always hoped for Griezmann in this league. So I'm going to say number 1, De Bruyne, number 2, Griezmann. Mo Salah, man, even though he's behind Modric in terms of my favorite players, Mo Salah, come on, that's number 3 because of where he is in his career, his age. I think that makes Modric number 4, Benzema number 4, Benzema number 5, Pogba number 6, and Pogba's star has dimmed so much because of the PED scandal and being banned that it's hard to know how good he would be in MLS. Even if I love the idea of that being a reclamation thing for him, like him coming and bossing MLS would be fun to watch.
I almost think that he's kind of just trying to get in the news to a degree. But did you see Pogba? There's an interview where he was kind of dragging Wayne Rooney as a leader and this and that, and just saying all sorts of incendiary things about Wayne Rooney to get back in the news.
That comes with Pogba, right? We're talking about mentality and attitude and all this stuff. And by the way, I do think Major League Soccer needs personality. I'm not going to say like don't sign a guy because he's got a big personality. To me, that's wrong. It's exactly entertainment and sport. Yeah. It's a mix of those things. But if you talk about those guys on that list, and Mo Salah's got ego, there's no doubt about that, but he's definitely not the kind of guy that goes out into the media trying to stir things up. Mo Salah, as KY says, that's the biggest one in terms of like current ability combined with his potential impact on Major League Soccer. Like Griezmann, great player, definitely on the backside of things, playing at Atletico Madrid, a good team, but not one of the most visible teams in the world. Kevin De Bruyne playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world, most successful clubs in the world, but playing in a position where I don't think he moves the needle as much as Mo Salah does, even if he's incredible. And again, I think that would be great. Benzema, if he can score at the levels that he did in Madrid, and I haven't checked his Saudi Arabia numbers, I'm sure they're very good.
Yeah,
would
who's
be
on
fun.
that beat?
Talk about a guy who loves flashy cars and all that stuff. Like, Karim Benzema's lifestyle would change. He would still have a ton of money and still be able to do a lot of things, but it would be a very different kind of existence in Major League Soccer, depending on the city that he was playing in. And that's the other issue. There are only so many cities that I think these guys make sense in. And then you start talking about, well, like, okay, can we imagine Antoine Griezmann playing for FC Dallas? Like, I don't know, Robert. Can we do that?
I was just daydreaming of Mo Salah bombing down the right wing for FC Cincinnati. I mean, can you see it?
That would be incredible. And no, I cannot see it. I cannot see it. And like, Atlanta United has got DP slots open, and they're an ambitious club. But can you imagine them? This is why they have to go. I say have to. This is why they go into South America and try to sign these up-and-coming young talents from places like Boca Juniors and Paraguay, because they're not going to convince, generally speaking, the established European star. And maybe they don't want to from a business perspective, from a cost-benefit perspective, but they're not going to get those players. Those players are going to – what cities are those players going to, Robert? You give me those cities. Don't say Detroit, because you don't have a team and they're not going there. Go ahead.
So it would be obviously Miami.
The
two Los Angeles teams.
The two Los Angeles teams. What else? There's maybe one more place, but I don't think two more teams.
I was going to say New York, but the teams are...
One's got a good stadium, but they play in Jersey, and they don't seem to want to sign big names. And the other one could sign big names, but they play in a baseball stadium at least for a little while longer, a couple of years more. So
it's a little bit tough. Obviously Pogba, out of those 6 players, he seems actually the most realistic. He has the most like reclamation to do out of any of those players, and the most willing to be pulled.
His stock is low enough that you can imagine Pogba landing in a place that is not, maybe Chicago even. Like, Paul Pogba in Chicago is not impossible to imagine right now.
And they'll still be playing through the summer, and Lake Michigan, like Chicago's on the shores of Lake Michigan, and in the summer you can't tell that that's not South Beach. So maybe you can get the guys on. There's yachts in Lake Michigan, so you can be convinced. Like, don't show them Chicago in like March and April.
I think
July in Chicago is amazing.
My sense is that a lot of Europeans would underrate Chicago. They just don't know. They just don't know. Maybe watching Emily in Paris has got them more aware of what's going on in Chicago. I don't know. She's supposed to be from Chicago in that show. Don't ask me why I know that. Maybe that's the thing. But yeah, that's San Diego, by the way. Nate has mentioned San Diego. I will say, since we threw up those 6 names, Kevin De Bruyne, per Tom Bogert, has shown some interest and may have been in contact with San Diego FC's leadership to potentially move to MLS to be one of their first players, their first big name players. San Diego is, you again, just a little bit of awareness. And some of these players are more worldly than I'm giving them credit for, Robert. Let's be fair. You can't just assume stupidity. Like, they don't know anything except Miami and Los Angeles. No, some of them
There's some.
Some of them do. And I don't think it's that hard to say to like a Kevin De Bruyne, hey, look at this place. Look at the weather in this place. Look at the beach and the ocean and the culture and hey, you want some tacos? Man, we got some tacos in San Diego.
Not to forget about Orlando, another Florida team, obviously not as glitzy as the Miami Brethren.
No.
Did Kaká ever say anything like glowing about his experience in?
You're right. Kaká
Orlando?
did sign in Orlando, but I also think that a lot of that had to do with Orlando having Brazilian ownership. I think that had a lot to do with it. But that's a fair point that Kaká did land.
But has anyone followed him there since?
No, they haven't. I don't think they've been willing. Like, I don't think they've been willing to kick the tires on a name. Like, maybe they have behind the scenes and we don't know it. But my guess is that Orlando decided that their approach was not going to be the big former European star or European-based star in the case of Kaká. Like, I just don't think that's what the direction they wanted to go. And this is interesting, right? Because MLS teams kind of have to pick their lane. And this is not different than any other league in the world, because Brighton's not going to be signing the biggest names on the planet. They have to be smart about who they sign. But the geography dictates so much of what you're capable of in terms of the kind of players you can sign in Major League Soccer. Bruce Arena, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago, was talking about the situation with the Galaxy. He was obviously no longer the Galaxy coach. This is when he was in New England. And he was like, there's no excuses in LA. People want to play in LA. So you just have to figure out a way to, work the roster rules to get the players who want to be in LA to come to LA so you can win in LA because you have such a built-in advantage. And it's clear that LAFC is riding that same wave with the players that they've brought in. They've been smart and gotten, like, Denis Bouanga was not a big name, but he's an MLS superstar. But they've added those pieces around Bouanga and brought in some big names that have really helped them. So, if you have that advantage of geography, you should be leveraging it. But maybe the measure of Major League Soccer's growth is going to be its ability to get some big name players, hopefully not 38, 39-year-old players, but more like 32-year-old players into places that aren't Miami, Los Angeles, even New York.
It would be pretty unreal to see any of these players. I think De Bruyne would be fantastic, but Mo Salah ripping down the right-hand side.
Can I just say, I know there's the altitude thing. Colorado is a beautiful place. Utah is beautiful. Those are beautiful places. You like the mountains? You should be signing up. Paul Pogba, Kevin De Bruyne, Mo Salah, Kareem Benzema in Utah. It's a pretty funny thought. It's a pretty funny thought.
Yeah, I don't know if his lifestyle quite matches up. And do they have yachts on the Salt Lake? I mean,
I don't think the Salt Lake. Well, it doesn't. What's the thing about salt water? Like that much salt?
You
like,
float.
You float.
You're very buoyant.
Right?
Buoyancy levels are high.
Maybe he just wants to lay around in the Salt Lake. I don't even know that's the thing you can do. I have no idea. I've never seen the Salt Lake myself, so I have no idea.
You might be convoluting that with the Red Sea, but
I know in the Red Sea there's a lot of floating. Yeah, that's
that's a whole
weird
destination.
stuff.
Thanks for everyone chipping in on the conversation. Everyone kind of tickles the interest and the imagination to picture these players here in Major League Soccer, and kind of Messi and that Barcelona 2012 crew has kind of opened the doors as far as what is a realistic player. We're going to take a breath, come back with today's big question. All right, Friday's big question. If you had to pick just one of the games to watch in the MLS Cup playoffs this weekend, would it be Miami traveling to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in front of a hypothetical crowd or a proposed or expected crowd of 70,000 fans, or to be the number 2 team in Major League Soccer on the road in New York with their backs to the walls as Columbus face elimination? If you had to pick just one, what would it be, Jason?
All right, so you're kind of testing me here, like the soccer purist in me. Am I going to lean into this idea that I'm going to see if Wilfred Nancy can figure out how to overcome this game plan that Sandro Schwartz dropped on him at lower.com field and beat out the energy that the Red Bulls used to find a way to win that game on the road, to surprise the number 2 overall seed in Major League Soccer. If I'm gonna watch for that tactical battle, the chess match that's gonna happen between Wilfred Nancy and Sandro Schwartz. I mean, which players is Cucho Hernandez gonna rise to the occasion? No, I'm watching Lionel Messi play in Atlanta in front of 70,000. What are you talking about, Robert? This is the question that you bring to me on a Friday, which I'm watching Lionel Messi in Atlanta. Come on.
So that's an absolute no doubter then. I mean, I didn't think I was pushing you to the test of your soccer purity, but at the same time, you're going for the wow factor is what you're telling me.
It comes down to what feels bigger for me. It comes down to what feels bigger. And as much as I respect Wilfred Nancy and Columbus and what they've done and who they are and the fact that they're defending champions, as much as I'm even intrigued by the idea of the Red Bulls of all teams, a club that has never won an MLS Cup despite being an original MLS franchise. As much as I'm intrigued by the story, them possibly upsetting one of the favorites and making a push and maybe getting that opportunity to do the same thing against Miami in a conference title game. It's one-off, right? So it'll be a title game. I still cannot deny that I am attracted to the big event, to the biggest stage, to the brightest lights, to the biggest crowd, to the biggest stars. There is one guy who could possibly be considered the biggest star in this round of the MLS Cup playoffs, it's Lionel Messi. There's only one game that's going to give me 70,000 people. Again, some of them presumably rooting for him, but many, many, many of them rooting against him. And that's what I want my American soccer. I want American soccer to feel like that. I want it to feel like every Michigan game. I want it to feel like every Super Bowl. I want it to feel huge and important, and that game's going to feel huge and important.
What a conflict of emotions. Rooting against, if you were an Atlanta fan, rooting wholeheartedly against Messi would be unless you're a Madrid fan, and you've probably rooted against Messi multiple times. But the soccer purist, I mean, there's a bit of a soft spot for Messi across the board. But having your postseason life on the line, rooting against him, would be a difficult position to be in. At least for
you mean
myself
just as a soccer fan who who appreciates Messi as the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
right?
Even if you weren't a Barcelona fan or an Argentina fan, there's a place if you like the sport, there is a spot for Messi there. And to I guess when I guess the heat of the moment might come in and just you bleed your Atlanta colors, but you might feel it in the moment. But it'd be interesting to see how many people are actively rooting against them.
I'd be curious, right? And I have no science background, but I'd be curious if we could get somebody on a couch somewhere, maybe do some interviews and talk to people who don't identify as Real Madrid fans or don't identify as Brazil fans, I guess, because that would also engender a little bit of dislike for Lionel Messi. Sure, France, I guess, right, because of Argentina and But I would love to talk to people who don't identify as fans of a team that has consistently had to go up against Messi, and therefore that would naturally bring out some ill feelings towards him, and find out the ones who hate him. Why? Because those people definitely exist, right? Like, we can't imagine there are people who are like, not I hate Messi for no other reason than something about him pisses them off, right? And I would love to unpack that. Like, what is it about him that bothers you? And again, maybe it's the Ronaldo thing. Maybe some people have just made their binary choice and it was Ronaldo 18 years ago and now it's still Ronaldo.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Ronaldo like anti-Messiism. Is there many people online that are posting anti-Messi stuff that aren't bots that are created?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It feels like a lot of bot hate goes Messi's way, but I have seen an undercurrent on social media of people saying that the referees are protecting Messi more than other players, and they're getting a lot of special treatment and calls.
That could be. Look, I mean, I do think there are plenty of MLS fans who already have found themselves not liking him because they do feel like things are tilted in his direction. I mean, that you could argue that, right? And again, maybe, I'm throwing out the caveats about Real Madrid fans, but I guess if you are a fan of any La Liga team during his period in Spain, you could say, well, look, Messi got all the calls. Barcelona got all the calls. It's always about Barcelona, Real Madrid anyway. I already have this natural dislike and all of those things. I mean, if you are the ultimate cynic about his story, I'm sure you could find reasons to pick it apart and think, oh, yeah, it's too pat. This whole thing, this little kid from Argentina needs some hormones because he's so small. And, you go to Barcelona. And then, all of that stuff. You could find a reason. I mean, he's been in trouble, or his dad has been in trouble for some of the business dealings and the way they've handled that. I do think Spain kind of entraps big personality, big celebrities when it comes to that stuff a little bit with their tax laws. But, there is that too. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Just because he went to Publix and bought some cereal doesn't make him the nicest guy on the planet, I guess.
No, and I've put it in our suggestions for memory holes, that time when he went to Gabon and met the ruthless dictator down there wearing cargo shorts and
Okay.
He undid some human rights stuff.
This is interesting, all right? Because, this is KY again. People treat him like he's a Make-A-Wish kid. Okay, there is a naivete about Messi that can be off-putting, because you're pointing out that he ended up in a place where this was a bad look. Like Lionel Messi, why are you there with that person? And you get the sense that maybe he's just not sort of actively engaging with the world that allows him to appreciate that maybe that's a bad idea, right? Is that the reason to hate him, or is that the reason to not like him as much as other people do? I mean, does his play on the field outweigh any of those sort of bumbling social things and sort of image things that he has found himself in. I don't know. I don't know. If you're Dutch, you might not like him. He's calling your players Bobo, Que mira, Bobo. Like that whole thing after the World Cup match. I mean, I don't know.
That whole interaction in the World Cup between the Dutch and the Argentine team, that I had no emotional stake or rooting stake, but that whole thing got me pumped up. I was like sitting on the couch, like all fired up, seeing was it who blasted the ball into the Dutch bench and then just started that melee? That was pretty wild.
I definitely think that he's competitive in a way that if you are not on his side can feel like a little bit over the top. I mean, he's not getting tarred and feathered with it. And I do think that, if let's bring it back to current events, I do think Vinny Jr. got docked some points by some people in the Ballon d'Or race because of his attitude, right? And people just decide, oh, that's a bad attitude. Like, I don't like that attitude. What about it is different than some other players? Well, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Well, considering the way that Vinny Jr. is treated in Spain, I bet you some of those people, the reasons why are, they're right there, maybe skin deep. Let's just say it that way. So
that's well put. Well put.
Yeah. I mean, how much does Messi get a pass on some of those things because of, a lack of racist behavior around him, right? If he was a black player in Spain, would he have gotten a different kind of treatment? I mean, I don't know. And did he get away with some things because he wasn't a black player in Europe? I don't know. Interesting things.
So, the big question of the day, are you watching Miami in front of a sold-out Mercedes-Benz or a Columbus in New York? Pretty wholeheartedly,
come on.
You're watching Miami in Atlanta on
You're not
Saturday
on
night.
board for the flames and for the train sounds and all the stuff they do in Atlanta, Robert? Are you against all of it? I mean, it's the American style event stuff. But hammering the spike, we're gonna get. So who's gonna hammer the spike for this game?
Well, I thought one kind of wake and take sort of idea I had. So if MLS goes to the calendar change and they have that big significant winter break, I thought that like a Leagues Cup or a mini tournament held at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the wintertime might be kind of a fun idea.
Okay. Yeah, sure. We could do something like that. I mean,
also, other random idea. You know how those videos Messi has his own personal bodyguard that lurks the sidelines waiting to tackle anyone that's gonna. I wonder if that guy. I mean, he seems like a consummate professional, but what if someone just like absolutely like a player, absolutely just the dirtiest tackle, sliding tackle from behind, just. Do you think that guy is there a world where he runs on and tackles an opposing player for just a righteously dirty tackle?
I mean, I would hope not. That would be outside the purview of his job. So yeah.
I mean, who else is allowed such provisions like that, though? Really? I mean, who gets their own bodyguard?
That's
on the field.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. What level of how do you determine what level of fame dictates that you need a personal bodyguard who gets to stalk the sideline and race onto the field anytime somebody with a camera wants to take a selfie? I don't know. I don't know what the line is.
Be careful, Dax McCarty. Don't go in too hard. Careful, Dax.
I mean, it might be easy to mistake Dax McCarty for a fan who wants to take a selfie. I love Dax, but he doesn't jump off the screen as like an obvious world famous footballer, or a talented professional footballer. But there you go.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit us up on social media, MKickaround on X and Instagram. Do we have time for that extra time topic, or do you want to save that for next week, Jason?
Well, I mean, I'll just say this. I haven't really dived into it too much, and obviously now they're out of the playoffs, so that takes them a little bit out of the picture, and we are hearing things. And this actually kind of relates to you in your neck of the woods, Robert. But we are hearing things that perhaps CF Montreal could be on the move, that this could be a relocation situation. Look, by the way, saddened by anything that relates to moving soccer clubs, moving professional sports teams. Do not like it.
Heartbreaker.
Not my thing. I'm not on board with that. But there are reports, and I've heard this from a couple of different places with a couple of different variations, but I've heard reports that Montreal could be on the move. Now, the reason we mentioned Montreal, and the reason you came up is because at least one report out of Montreal says they're going to go to Detroit. which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If we're talking about the calendar being a problem, if they change it to the winter, that's not good for Montreal. It's not good in Detroit either.
Call them the Detroit Expos.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, I don't think Montreal's relocating to Detroit, but I guess what I'm hearing is it's possible they could relocate to a much warmer climate. Hint, hint, hint. Think of some warm climate growing cities in America that don't have Major League Soccer teams, perhaps in the southwestern part of our country. I don't know. But we had the story that who was it? That
Victor Wanyama.
Victor Wanyama was
formerly of Chelsea and other famous teams.
Yeah, one of Montreal's best and most important players for a long time, for like a couple of years now. It's not like Victor Wanyama has been mailing it in Montreal. I think he's been a pretty good player, and maybe that's what that is. Apparently, the man had a burner account. He had a burner account over there on X.
The name of the false name is pretty funny. He didn't disguise it too much.
Victor Delgado is what he went with. I'm still Victor. I don't. This is sort of like Who's the Boss? When Tony Danza was the star of Who's the Boss, and they were like, the character's name's going to be Michael, but he wouldn't respond to Michael, so they had to change. I don't know if that's the actual name, but they had to change it to Tony. So they had to change the character's name to Tony so that he would be like, oh, Tony?
Who?
That's me.
Who? Who are you talking about?
That's great. This is never a good look, right? Nobody ever comes out of you had a burner account to respond to tweets looking solid, right? This is always pretty bad.
Yeah, so Victor Wanyama responding online using a false name, clapping back at fans talking poorly about Montreal MLS games, and also talking about African politics. So it wasn't too much of a stretch to connect the dots there. Who's this Victor guy that keeps on clapping back at criticisms of Victor Wanyama?
Yeah, why is there another Victor saying things to journalists online about their Victor Wanyama posts? I don't know why. Who could that be? Oh, and also he's very interested in Kenyan politics. What? Well, that's on Victor Delgado. Delgado. He's very interested in those Kenyan politics. Victor Delgado.
All right. Is that our show for the day there, Jason?
That's our show. That is it. We are done.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will be back on Monday. And until next time, hit the subscribe button and enjoy your soccer.